My name is John, and the title of this video is Always Be Vaping. I know that might sound like a weird title, but I think you should stick around and watch the video and you'll see what I mean when I talk about Always Be Vaping. At the end of this video, of course, as always, I'm going to hopefully give you a couple things that you can do that I think you'll find helpful. So let's get started. When I start working with someone, I typically have several questions that I ask them in order to get an understanding of what their vaping pattern looks like. And what I think is going to be interesting in this video is to talk to you about what those questions are and maybe some answers that I typically get from people when I ask them those questions. One of the first questions that I ask people is how many minutes after you wake up until you have your first vape? And some of the answers that I get to this are 2 minutes. I get 5 minutes, a good amount. And one thing that I'm hearing a lot of is seconds or within 1 minute. The next question I'll ask people is how many years have you been vaping? And for a lot of people, this is typically up into the 8-year range, the 5-year range, the 4-year range. So we are getting people that are measuring that in years. I don't get that many people that are in 3 months, 6 months. Most of them are in the year period to that question. The next question I'll ask them is how many times do you hit from the device in a day? And the answers that I typically get are lost count, too many to count, a lot, can't remember, I don't know. And then I'll ask a follow-up question, how many vaping sessions do you have a day? And for that question, I get some pretty similar answers, which are too many to count, lost count, I don't know. And I often have people just leave it blank because they don't understand what a vaping session is. So those 4 questions tell me a lot right off the bat about what's going on with the person and their vaping. I want to know what your assessment of this person is. You might be thinking, wow, they wake up in the morning and the first thing that they do is vape. If I told you that many of them were in their early 20s, you might be putting 2 and 2 together and thinking, well, they vape for 5 years, 8 years, 6 years. That means most of their late adolescence and early adulthood, they've been vaping. You might be thinking this person is vaping so much that they don't know how many times they hit their device per day or how many times they pull it out to hit it. And if any of these questions you sort of agree with my assessment of it, you're probably right. What's going on with the person is that in fact they are living an always be vaping lifestyle. And I would bet they probably have an always be vaping mindset too. Does everybody that I see vape like this? No, of course not. Do you vape like this? I don't know. You may or may not vape like this. But if you don't, I do want you to know that most likely that's where you're headed. And if you want to do something about it, keep watching this video. And even if you don't vape like the people that I just described, it is important to remember that you can still have an always be vaping mindset and not be vaping at that level. So I didn't want to go and leave that unaddressed in this video. But let's move on. I think you're going to like the next thing that I'm going to talk about and find it helpful. So some other questions that I often ask myself is how does a person go 5 or 6 years and never make a single quitting attempt? Or have they vaped since they were 14 or 15 years old and now they're 21, 22 years old? Why have they made 1 quitting attempt or 0 quitting attempts in that time period? What is causing that to happen? And of course, there are hundreds of things that are contributing to that. Many of them, which I will be making videos about in this channel. So let's talk about you. It's time for honesty time. And what I'd like you to do, and you may have already been doing it, is but to go back and ask yourself the questions that I've just been posing. And do they describe you? Do they resonate with you? I'd love to hear about them. If you'd put them down in the comments, that would be awesome. That lets me know what's going on. I think it makes for a more interesting community. And of course, it helps a little bit with getting the YouTube algorithm on our side and spreading the word about quitting. So I always love that you can, if you could do that, that would be awesome. The question now becomes, how does someone change that? There are hundreds of things that are keeping a person vaping. They're contributing, they're causing, or they're factors in them continuing. The one thing that I think people don't understand is that if you have an always be vaping mindset, that is going to just keep you going down that pathway. The first thing that you need to do is take that always be vaping mindset and start adopting an always be quitting mindset. Now, you might be thinking, John, I'm not ready to quit yet. I understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do want to say that even that, though that's true, you still have two choices. You can still be vaping and have an always be vaping mindset, or the second one is you can be vaping and start adopting an always be quitting mindset. Those two things potentially have very different outcomes. The first one, where you're vaping and have an always be vaping mindset, what they lead to is 5, 10, 15, potentially a lifetime of vaping. The second one, which is where you're currently vaping, but you're starting to adopt an always be quitting mindset, is potentially the thing that can stop that. It's potentially the thing that can get you turned around so your mindset pushes you in a different direction. So I want you to sit down and seriously have some honesty time with yourself and think about which is the direction you want to go, because it is important, your mindset, even if you're still vaping. I've got a couple things that you can do to start this. The first one is get on the Always Be Quitting interest and announcement list. Really simple to do that. Jump down into the description, click on it. It'll take you to our website and you can fill out a form to get on that list. Another thing that you can do is learn exactly what Always Be Quitting is. The best way to do that is to go to the video that we have that's entitled Always Be Quitting and watch it. And if you already watched it, I would say watch it again. It's going to be helpful for you to change the way that you're thinking about certain things. And that's a big one that you can always do. The second thing with respect to subscribing to things is subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us grow, but it mainly will help you because YouTube will send you the future videos that we release. And I want you to watch those future videos. The super cool thing is you actually made it to the end of this video, and that tells me something about you. You showed up, you watched the video, you're probably thinking about it. Those are important things for having a mindset change that's going to be helpful to you in the future. So I want to throw that out there. Congratulations for making it to the end, and make sure that you do those things. Don't let this sit and say, oh, I watched a video. Do something about it. Make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do something about it. It sounds like you've got some things to think about and some things to do. Remember, always be quitting until you've quit for the last time. My name's John, and I'll see you in the next video.